Hello subscribers, Connor here. So excited to bring you guys another video, another tasting video for this month's subscription coffee. This month has been a real adventure for the team here at Epoch Chemistry. We had our first Indonesian coffee, an anaerobic natural, and we are just so proud. We feel like it's our best coffee we've ever done yet, and I'm excited to have you taste it along with us. As well, of course, we have some MAME coffee from our guest roaster in Zurich, Switzerland. We sent a little write-up on them. Feel free to check out all the stuff that's on the bag there. I'll walk you guys through it in a moment, and you can find some more information on what's there. You might see I have 4 coffees put aside here from MAME. The reason we did 4 this month is because, well, each of you guys has different preferences and brew methods. Rochelle and I took some time to go review what we know about you guys, what you've enjoyed in the past, and we came up with these 4 different offerings. We have one offering for our comfort subscribers, and that is the full bloom. And then we have 3 other selections from Kenya and Ethiopia to go along with our Indonesian coffee for our open world subscribers. So the coffee today, like I said, we're gonna have our Indonesian coffee. I thought I'd just take a second and walk you through what's on the bag. After speaking with a few of you guys last month, I noticed that not everyone understood what was actually on the card, so I wanted to show you what was there. We have 2 QR codes. If you're unfamiliar with QR codes, all you have to do is open the camera on your phone, hover it over top of the design here, and it will give you a little prompt to click on. That little prompt will either lead you to our YouTube page, where this video is, or it will bring you to our archive, which has a lot more written information around this coffee and roasting process. Both of these are done by Rochelle and myself, and I really hope you enjoy them all. So today we are going to brew, of course, we're gonna consistently always cup the coffee. We find that's the easiest way that everyone can participate together without having to purchase more gear or more things from that. And then we're gonna brew our brew method of the month, that's our clever dripper. And I'm gonna have a recipe for that a little bit later on, and I will supplement a couple other versions of how you could do this in a little email to you guys going out. So on our table here today, we of course have our cupping spoons, our glorified soup spoons if you will. We have 2 cups of water. 1 cup is gonna be for when I put the grinds into like we did last time, and 1 is for me to rinse off my spoons. I have, in our case, 14 grams of medium coarse coffee ground. Here I have, today, sorry, I should have said as well, we're going to do one of the MAME coffees as well. If this is not your coffee, don't worry, we just couldn't do all 4 of them at one time, so we thought we'd just do one of the MAMEs. This is the Kiagathu AB, it's their Kenyan offering, for some of you who received that, and, oh my gosh, it smells so good. We have the Indonesian coffee as well. So you can go ahead, really you can look at some increments online. We're using 14 grams to 200 grams of water. You can go as low as 10 to 200. Really it's the preference of how you like to enjoy your coffee when it comes to cupping. And feel free to mess around with the increments. You're not gonna do it wrong by having only 10 grams in here and 200 grams of water, but you do want enough there that can really substantiate and provide something a little bit different for you, a bit more taste. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour these coffees into my cupping cups here. I have my fellow EKG here on the side. I have this set to 100 degrees. We're gonna brew a little bit later on with this water, and it's gonna be a little bit less, about 94 degrees, but for the cupping, I'm going to use 100 grams. If you haven't had a chance to smell your coffee yet, it's always important to start with that scent. Smell is about 70% of taste. So this is the Kenyan one here, and similar to the Ethiopian, you'll find very similar tasting notes. I get a lot of, in Kenyan coffee in general, you're gonna see a lot of like the apple, grapefruit, red kind of fruits that come out in Kenyan coffee, and I absolutely get that off the aroma here. A little bit of apple. And this Indonesian Anaerobic, oh, it just tastes like what I imagine free dark chocolate tastes like. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour these up, and then we'll talk a little bit more about these coffees. So I'm just doing a small circular pour. It's not as important how you pour into your cupping. You just wanna saturate all the coffee grinds that are there. This nice little pour up there. And you'll start to see that lovely crust get formed on top. So, after your first pour here, we're gonna take a chance to smell once again the hot liquid that's now been immersed with our coffee. Oh, they smell fabulous. And you know, I think it's important to reiterate why we cup coffee. So when you cup coffee, you're removing a lot of the barriers of what brewing does to a coffee. It's still hot water, coffee in a bowl. It's an immersion type, which means the coffee and water are sitting together. This is a great way to analyze coffee. It's very difficult for me to analyze coffee pour over to pour over, espresso to espresso, because there's a lot of parameters that have to be taken into consideration. With cupping, it's a very simple way to do this. This is how we do all our quality control here at Epoch Chemistry, and it's a really simple way for coffee people around the world to share and enjoy and taste coffee together. So feel free, I really hope you guys are cupping alongside me right now. If you're not, feel free to watch this video and cup on your own time. It's also a great way to use the last little bit of coffee in a bag. Often, if you're like me, I have probably 30 bags of coffee at home that all have about 10 grams, 12 grams left in them. What I'll do is I'll actually make myself a little cupping. And I encourage you to always throw in, you want multiple coffees, but always throw in a really crappy coffee as well. If you have like a Nescafe or somebody comes by and brings you a box of instant, put that next to it. And you can really start to see that difference with the specialty quality coffee and the more generic store-bought crap that is out there, unfortunately. So with cupping, we're gonna give this, it's been about going for about 1.5 minutes now. We're gonna give a total of 4 minutes for this to actually extract, at which point we will break our crust. So the crust, I have to take my spoon backwards. I'm gonna push it through the coffee grinds, turn my spoon upwards, I'm gonna smell my spoon and smell it again. The reason why we do this is there's a lot more concentrated scent on top with this coffee crust. When you break the crust, we're gonna get more of the liquid smell, which is what we're gonna actually be enjoying and analyzing and tasting. As well, from there, we will sift off a lot of the coffee grinds on top into our water, rinsing our spoon in between, at which point we'll start actually sipping and tasting. If you might look on the table over here, I'll just take a second to explain the other stuff over here. We have a little carafe ready for our clever dripper, and I'm gonna be using a really fun cup today. This is from Krug. Krug is a Canadian company that has won a lot of innovation awards when it comes to glassware and coffee. I got asked a lot at the beginning of Epoch Chemistry if there was glassware like there is for wine or beer for specific types of coffee. And I'm so happy in the last 2 years, a lot of companies have been starting, and actually a lot of them are Canadian owned. So there's 2 Canadian companies, Krug and one in Toronto, that is producing incredible glassware that is made for certain types of coffee. I got this one today because it is the EQ glass. It is really great for more balanced and decadent coffee. So I'm really excited to have this guys with you a little bit later on. We can go ahead and break our crust now. So like I said, turn the spoon backwards. We're gonna push it through and smell that coffee there. Oh, that's fabulous. It's so great with these 2 coffees, and I really encourage you to try the Indonesian next to any of the offerings you got this month. I get a lot of what smells like sweet honey and a little bit of apple coming off the Kenyan, and I get this wine, tart, beautiful dark chocolate coming off the Indonesian. So now, I'm putting my 2 spoons together like so, and I'm going to scrape all those coffee grinds out and into my vessel here. Now, if you've watched any coffee stuff online, you might have seen before, people will even stir their grinds into it. It really all comes down to preference. This is what we have found that we enjoy most at Epoch Chemistry. So of course we're gonna show you what we do, but please experiment. Don't be held down by what we think is right. A little rinse there in between. And I'm gonna scrape off the Indonesian now. If you are submerging your spoon in, just a little bit on the surface there, you want to just touch it in. I almost lean my little handle here right on the edge. If you're still seeing a lot of coffee grinds or coffee grounds that are actually in that water there, give it a second. They will settle down as long as you skim that top off there a bit. Now it's important that when you are slurping coffee, and of course we are going to be obnoxiously slurping today, and I think it's important to understand to do that. The reason we do that is a few reasons. We want to first off aerate the coffee a little bit. The second part is it will spread the coffee all around our palate, giving us the most robust and round flavor that we want to get the most out of what we're enjoying. So I'm gonna start today with my Kenyan coffee, and I'm gonna do a little plug here. I got these really cool spoons. If you're like me, I love little gadgets like this. I'm a real gearhead. Love these little spoons from our friends at Luminous Coffee. We still have some Luminous in stock. If you have not tried them, oh my goodness, they are one of our partners going forward for this year, absolutely. So this Kenyan offering, It's funny, if this was a blind cupping, and we do quite a lot of these, Bryce and I participate in a group called Leaderboard Coffee, and we've done a lot of blind cuppings with customers and ourselves as well. I would be able to tell this is a Kenyan right away. And the reason being, it has a very velvety mouthfeel, very subtle, but there's this really tart acidity at the beginning. It really reminds me almost like a grapefruit rind, maybe something like a green apple, and those are really Kenyan qualities of coffee. So get back in there because that was delicious. I did get a little bit of bitterness in the finish. That is marvelous. Very balanced coffee. What do I mean by balance? Balance is, of course, a little bit subjective, but really it's the idea that acidity, bitterness, and sweetness and umami are all kind of mixing together to make a more balanced and robust coffee. I'm so excited to go to the next one. I actually, just before this video, Bryce, Rochelle, and myself tasted this Indonesian coffee again, and we were just blown away. That is superb. Let's talk about mouthfeel. So there are some physical things that happen when you're tasting coffee that are not just subjective to what I enjoy or what I perceive as taste. I find this one has quite a thinner body than this Indonesian. I would say this is very juicy. It is quite a heavy body, which means I feel the weight on my tongue and on my palate. I get this initial kind of burst of wine, almost like a natural red wine. From there, maybe a little bit of papaya. I'm definitely getting a long, lingering dark chocolate in the finish. I'd say it has a pretty medium to high acidity. Borderline high acidity, not high acidity, I meant sweetness there. Medium to high sweetness, excuse me. Really enjoying the long finish though. That is just lovely. I will be honest, if you're an espresso lover, this in a milk beverage is mind-blowing. We were having so much fun this week experimenting with that. I don't know about you guys, I'm gonna get back in there. Oh, it's so interesting when things start to cool. Coffee really gets its most flavor the colder it gets. We're gonna save some of these, and I hope if you're gonna brew along with us, don't take this down yet. At the very end of this tasting, let's go back and taste these. You'll find the acidity will be a little bit higher, but immediately I almost got a marzipan tasting note, almost like a baked apple coming out of this one now as it cools a little bit. Oh my gosh. That is super good. I'm in love with that coffee. Let me tell you about this Indonesian coffee. So Indonesia, unfortunately for a long time, had a bad reputation in the specialty coffee industry. Not because they're bad people or doing bad things, it's just they were really limited by their terroir, by what was happening actually in the environment in Indonesia, Southeast Asia in general, Philippines, different stuff on the island of Java. There's a lot of humidity there. So it's very hard to dry coffee conventional ways. When you think about drying coffee in Nariño, Colombia, Cauca, or let's say in Guji, Ethiopia, they have a lot of a drier climate, which will allow their coffee to dry faster and more consistently. Indonesia, they had a lot of issues, so they would use fire, extra heat sources to dry their coffee before it went bad. Now, what that would do is give a lot of tobacco and burnt flavors to the coffee, and it wouldn't show up in the specialty industry. Now, the people we bought this coffee from, which is the Cafe Imports ACES program, partnered with these amazing roasters, baristas, and growers in Indonesia to bring this coffee into the limelight. This coffee is grown in Java, and it's grown on the highest elevation on the farm. This is around 1,600 to 1,700 meters above sea level. Now, being on the highest part of the farm means this coffee goes under a lot of stress. Stress can be both a bad and good thing for coffee. It's bad because if there is a flash frost, this will kill off their crop. The good part of stress, unlike myself, plants do love stress. Stress, what it can bring for you is more sugars, more sweetness, more acidity in the coffee. It can allow it to mature a little bit more slowly, which can get more complex flavors. Now, what they took with this coffee is they picked this coffee by hand only when the cherries are ripe. That means they have to go out multiple times in their harvest. Instead of going out once, clear cutting everything, here's my cultivation, whatever happens, happens. They are hand selecting upwards of 10, 12, 14 times in one picking season to get just the right cherries when they're ripe. From there, they sealed them in an anaerobic fermentation tank. It's a little bit redundant because anaerobic does refer to fermentation, but anaerobic means the lack of oxygen used in the fermenting process of this coffee. So they seal these in large stainless steel vats. From there, they added I'm gonna read this, I do apologize, lactobacillus. So this is a yeast they added to it, basically a fermentation aid to help the fermentation move along more speedily, which gave it a really, really cool wine, tart, acidic characteristic. From there, they moved it onto raised beds for about 18 to 21 days. This is a very long time to dry coffee. You'll see a lot of coffee dry between 7 and 14 days. 18 to 20 days, that's a long time. 3 weeks of drying coffee after the anaerobic fermentation. With that, they have to move the coffee quite a lot to make sure it doesn't actually mold or produce unwanted characteristics in that last part of the drying phase. From there, it was moved to the parchment, milled, and sorted. This is a natural coffee, so the cherries were intact the entire time. This is what's giving this coffee such interesting complexities. We're gonna leave these aside just for a second because I do wanna come back and taste these at the end, and we're gonna move over our clever dripper. So first thing I'm gonna do here, of course, is rinse out my paper filter. This is for every brew method we do. And I was gonna give myself 1 second. I'm just gonna grab another kettle because I'm just running a little bit low on water. Can you grab me another kettle? Thank you so much. I'm lucky I have a team here at Epoch Chemistry. They make my world go round. So you see here, I have my carafe on the side. I'm using the false bottom of the Clever Dripper. The Clever Dripper is an amazing tool. It is one of the easiest ways that you can use to brew coffee consistently at home. I often joke that even my business partner, who is maybe not the most adept at brewing coffee, he is an experienced taster. Do not let it get it wrong. He is an experienced taster with a great palate. But brewing coffee for him can sometimes be an obstacle or not something he's as important to do in his life. This Clever Dripper has been a saving grace. You can brew it simply like this as a pour over. You can brew it as a immersion coffee. Immersion, once again, being that water and coffee mixing together. Just gonna get rid of this little water here. We are going to brew as a semi-immersion today. The big difference with the Clever Dripper as opposed to a French press is we have this paper filter. The paper filter is gonna get rid of a lot of the fines and oils that would impede from us having a really delicious cup of coffee. If you're a French press user at home, you can always buy filters for your French press, or there's some other techniques of blooming your coffee, heating it up, doing that kind of stuff as well that can really help you get a cleaner cup. Today I'm using 18 grams of coffee. We are going to yield 300 grams of liquid in total. I have my scale and my timer here on the bottom. A little shake. We're gonna do this in 2 pours, very simply. We're gonna do a small bloom, 50 grams. We're going to wait 30 seconds and then fill all the way up to 300. At which point we'll have our timer run until 2 minutes, so a total time of 2 minutes, at which point it will drain for about 30 seconds. If you are just joining us as a new subscriber and you're curious why we rinse the paper filter, they're wonderful trapping oils, they're great at getting the fines out of coffee. They have paper particles. They will dissolve into your water and create a more tannic, astringent coffee that's not actually part of the coffee's tasting notes. As well, I'm using the Indonesian coffee for this, the one that we roasted here, and I'm so excited for you to try this at home. My water is set to 94 degrees, and I'm gonna start my timer right now. 50 grams, saturating all the coffee grinds that are in there. We're gonna do a little bit of a agitation here to make sure the coffee all gets done there. So I'm just taking the whole brewer, giving it a robust swirl here, and let that bloom. We have about 15 seconds left on our timer here, and then we'll fill the rest of the way up. A great thing with the Clever Dripper is it's very versatile. You can make iced coffee incredibly easy with this recipe as well. And here I'm gonna still pour a little bit in a circular formation, but you'll see as it starts to fill up, I'm mostly focused on just getting the water in there. 300 grams total, 2 minutes total time. So I'm done pouring at 50 seconds on the dot there. There's a sneaky little smell there because it smelled so good earlier. I still get that wine smell, but this amount of water and this increment is just smelling beautiful. If you're waiting for this to actually extract and slip here a little bit there, I might just try a little sip of these bad boys. Oh my gosh. Apple, grapefruit, caramel, spot on with that one. That is delicious. Oh, wow. Dark chocolate wine cacao nibs is something that really jumps to my mind here. We're at 1:40. You might have noticed that putting the water into the carafe after is a great trick too. It heats it up. We're just looking at ways to make our coffee very consistent, and that is one of them. As well, I'm gonna give a little bit of hot water here in my last 10 seconds to my cup, because once again, I want that consistency going forward. I feel a little bit extra with this cup, but geez, do I love it. If you're anything like me, I just really get a lot of fulfillment out of having a beautiful cup. So once this is ready, 2 minutes on the dot, picking this up on top of my carafe, engaging the false bottom, and having this go right down. This will take about 30 seconds to actually extract all the way through. Now, this is where I said I was gonna share some other tips. There's a great way to brew this that is not the way we just did it. You can always add your water first. The big criticism in the specialty coffee industry of this brewer is we don't control the drawdown time. Depending on how the fines and the bed of coffee settled in the bottom, it might actually drip slower or faster. Right now it's still draining out and I'm at 235. I have very little control here, and I'm always looking for control over my brew. It's all about 240 now and it's done its dripping process. Move that back off into there. So what I mean by water first is we'd have our coffee ground on the side, wet our filter, same process. Then we'd fill up all 300 grams of water into the empty brewer. At which point we'd add the coffee and stir. What this does is it removes that barrier on the bottom. There's no compacting of the coffee, so it'll drain down very fast. Pour into my lovely EQ. It's so balanced. You know, cupping can be really accentuated, especially the way we cup. We cup with a lot of coffee. This is just a perfect balance, cacao nib dark chocolate. Before I sit down and just destroy this entire carafe of coffee, I wanted to tell you about what's happening next month. And it's a little bit of a secret because, you know, we don't want everyone to know. You guys are exclusive subscribers. We have a bio-innovation Panamanian coffee next. Panama, probably one of the most expensive places you can buy coffee from for a good reason. Their coffee is phenomenal. La Palma y el Tucán is an award-winning competition coffee grower in Panama, and we are so lucky to have sourced their bio-innovation Castillo varietal from them. This is gonna be a super clean, delicious, robust coffee that is only available to you subscribers. So if you're enjoying this process and you have some friends who want to be involved, we have about 40 spots left. Get them in with our crew. We would love to have them taste this Panamanian coffee. As well, next month, and once again, another secret there if you don't mind keeping it to yourself, Ona Coffee from Australia. They're going to be our next guest roaster. MAME this month is blowing us away. I'm so excited to try Ona. We've never had them. They've never been anywhere in Canada for us. They are the 10-time Australian Barista Champions, Roasters, Brewers Cup champions. They got 3rd place in the world last year. We'll have lots of videos and different things to go along with that. But we're so excited to have Ona Coffee coming up from Australia. Let's chat. If you are interested in talking more coffee, our team is all here for you. I'm available, Rochelle's available. If you want to hear more about the roasting process, how to brew for your brew method, let's chat. We'd love to talk with you more and keep this adventure going on. I want to take a second to also put some peace out there into the world. There was a lot of terrible things happening. My grandmother's from Ukraine, and what's happening in Ukraine is a real travesty. And I wanted to offer some peace and love to all of you guys. Happy brewing, and I'll see you guys next month.